Technical team, the interpreters cannot hear anything on this side. The sound issues into the Zoom feed. This is for those who would wait for the English interpretation. We cannot deliver interpretation into English or French because we do not get the sound from the venue. We are waiting for this to be fixed so that we can work.
So,
Recording in progress.
Também terá que ter esse mesmo mandato. Então, neste momento, há um conflito de interesse entre a Comissão de Embaixadores com, portanto, o Parlamento Pan-Africano. E nós estamos a fazer esse trabalho de advocacy, estamos a fazer esse debate com a sociedade para que as pessoas tomem consciência e que o Parlamento possa rever aquilo que é o seu mandato. O protocolo da sua criação e também com o protocolo de Manaus.
And with Malawi Protocol, so we want to awaken a civic conscience and the youth that are following us. And at this university, we've done this in Dakar last week with the civil society and the diaspora. And we are doing this event today with you so that we can speak with one voice. we want to sensitize the government to present the draft legislation on the Malabo Protocol to the Cape Verde Parliament. The Malabo Protocol will only come into force when 28 countries ratify. We currently have 15. So we need to fast track the process because it's been 10 years since this protocol was approved. But the member states have not met their obligations in terms of ratifying this instrument. So we count on you, count on your interest for African issues, because any of you here can't be a member of the Pan-African Parliament tomorrow. Any of you are candidates to being members of the Pan-African Parliament. Any of you is a candidate to becoming the chairperson of the African Union Commission. That's a mission for any citizen above 18 years old to be interested in their national affairs and the national parliaments, because once they're there, they can be appointed as members of the Pan-African Parliament. The Malabo Protocol says that the members will be elected in the country. So people okay, we were facing some technical struggles, but we will try to continue now. So we want Malabo Protocol to be approved and ratified so that those who are in the Pan-African Parliament do not hold two positions as members of the Pan-African Parliament and a member of the national parliaments. When I am in a session of the Pan-African Parliament and I have a session here in Cape Verde, I cannot be replaced because the Parliament cannot have two members in two different places. So I will only be a member in one parliament. So if we have two concurrent sessions in the national parliament and the Pan-African Parliament, I can only attend one and have to skip the other one. But if there is this opening from member states to separate the roles, I would not be occupying two roles. I would be exclusively at the Pan-African Parliament. And for the national parliament, there would be a member occupying that position internally. So that's why we are doing this advocacy, so that the government of Cape Verde will submit to Parliament the ratification of the Malabo Protocol so that the Pan-African Parliament can benefit of its full mandate and to allow the members of parliaments to take on their roles exclusively in the Pan-African Parliament, because there are responsibilities at the Pan-African Parliament in terms of conflict prevention, for instance, and we are unable to fully accomplish that role because we have a double role in our national parliament as well. When the heads of state in 2001 decided to establish the Pan-African Parliament, they thought about everything. They thought about a body with this responsibility and mandate to oversee the contribution of the African Union in the development of Africa. We cannot have the ambassadors at the African Union, and they are members of government, to oversee their ministers. So this cannot be. It's not possible. But a parliamentarian can conduct this oversight on ministers, because we are two separate bodies, a legislative body and an executive body. So the government and the parliament cannot, or the government cannot have an ambassador playing the role of a legislator of the parliament. So there must be this separation of powers. And we are launching this call to all of you in the civil society to question the government, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, to ratify the Malabo Protocol. The head of state signed and ratified this protocol. Why aren't we, as Parliament, doing the same? The decision has been made at the highest level. So what is the problem now to have 10 years on, we don't have this instrument ratified? So this is what we need to address, and we count on your support in this advocacy and this fight, because it's a fight for all of us. I'm not going to go on to be very long, but just to say that the Pan-African Parliament is the voice of Africa, the voice of women, of the youth, of the students, of the elderly, children, and people with disabilities. We want to exercise our mandate and role in full. We cannot have a partial role of MPs, but will rather want to have full powers. So thank you very much for your presence. I'm available to listen to your concerns and questions. And I know that for many of you, it's the first time you're hearing about this Pan-African Parliament, and we count on your support so that we can be truly the voice of the African people. Thank you. This was a great presentation, motivating, a lot of information. I do confess I did not know a lot of what has been said about the functioning of this organ. I made my notes, and I will certainly be able to give some inputs. We are still struggling with the I say that we're still struggling with the quality of sound from the venue, and this hinders our ability to deliver. We will resume as soon as we get a proper sound that allows us to work. Once again, we apologize for those online because we are not getting any sound from the venue and we are unable to deliver to you all. We hope this is addressed so that we can work for you. Thank you. So I would like to know what we intend to do in relation to this to address the problem, taking into account that most of the African countries have their currency is tied to the dollar. So I'd like to hear a bit about this. Good afternoon. I would like to. I think we need to challenge the ladies. We cannot only have the men speaking. I am an advocate for gender equality, so I'd like to have some of the ladies in the house speaking. I would like to take this opportunity of attending this meeting and thank Honorable Lucia for her explanation and presentation. But I'd like to know, what are the main challenges facing the Pan-African Parliament in order to strengthen its capacity and to promote public policies for struggling? Goods and products that come from there. It seems that we have proper quality now. Let's try. The African countries with produce that could further enrich the Cape Verdean market, but we choose to import more European products. What is the vision of the Pan-African Parliament in this regard? And has Cape Verde taken a position to accept or try to ratify this single currency of the African Union, or that is of the West Africa, probably? First of all, I'd like to thank Honorable Lucia Passos for the presentation and for this awareness campaign, and reaffirm our commitment as a university to bring more debates on these topics and to shed some light on our academic community on such important information that needs to reach a broader audience. I have this personal anguish that has to do with the free movement between the African countries, and the right to nationality or to citizenship. So migrant parents in Cape Verde have their children here, and this child does not have the right to citizenship. And some other situations that we've faced with family members of students that try to attend their graduation ceremony, but they are not allowed into the country. So these are situations that really cause a lot of anguish with families. In the specific case, we have the graduation ceremony, but it could be any other situation. If I have my child somewhere, I want to visit my child and know how he or she is doing. So these situations really cause some anger sometimes. And I would like to know if there is any movement in this sense. Is there any perspective for us to overcome these hurdles and prejudices that hinder our relationship within our continent? Any more speakers? I think I'm going to start from the last one and then going to the first. Firstly, I would like to thank all of you for your questions and for the quality, I repeat, the quality of the questions raised. These are in-depth questions that relate to the functioning of the African Union and the functioning of the member states, the sovereignty of member states, but also the functioning of the Pan-African Parliament itself. With regard to the free movement, there are two instruments that were approved by the African Union. This is the Treaty for the Free Movement of Persons and the African Free Trade Agreement. All of these instruments should be ratified by member states so that they come into force. In order to abolish visas requirements for African citizens to go into any African Union member states, we need to have all countries ratifying this treaty, and this hasn't happened. The free trade agreement, yes, it has been ratified by over 20 countries, but on the free movement of persons, very few countries have ratified it. And why is that? Because this has to do with the country's sovereignties. At the moment, the example that we have in Africa is Kenya, because Kenya has already abolished visas, but they have an online application requirement for entry in the country. The other countries will pick a group of countries. They will have bilateral agreements with those countries, and they move on at regional level, like the case of ECOWAS. At ECOWAS, we have a free movement of persons in our sub-region. The question raised very well. We have situations of people who want to come, and they are not always able to do so because there are requirements that pertain to the country's sovereignty. And these are the issues that we need to discuss. And this is what members of parliament are here for. Now I take on this responsibility to engage with the government. We're going to visit the Santiago University to know what are the constraints and what are these countries and what happened to these parents that tried to come and they were unable. So for us as members of parliament, not of the Pan-African Parliament, but of the Cape Verde Parliament, it is my responsibility to ensure the well-being of all those who visit and live in Cape Verde. As a member of parliament in my country, I need to be the voice of this student who came to study in Cape Verde. So I need to engage my government on this. I've taken due note. We are going to organize a visit to the dean of the faculty to hear about these constraints and listen, engage with the students of these other countries so that we can try to give them support to address this issue, because this cannot happen whatsoever. If it's happening, it must be addressed. Because if that student chose Cape Verde to study, his or her parents cannot be prevented from entering the country. What would you say if Portugal or Brazil would stop me from visiting my child studying in those countries? So these are situations that we need to look into and just know what are the requirements that we impose. Portugal, for instance, they have criteria that I need to meet as a mother to be able to visit. I need to have a visa. There are requirements. Cape Verde also has these requirements, and we need to know why these parents do not meet these criteria. If these are ECOWAS countries, what's happening? If they're non-ECOWAS countries, do we have bilateral agreements or not? So I cannot give you a final answer now, but my commitment is that we will come to the university, listen and engage with the dean and the students, understand what's happening, and know where these students are from, and understand what is the relationship of Cape Verde with these countries, and be able to provide advice to parents so that they can visit. Because this happens not only with Africa, it happens with Europe and the US. The free movement is a challenge for all humanity, mankind. We are giving a step forward in the African Union by passing this treaty, and we call upon member states to ratify to ensure the free movement of persons among the 55 member states of the African Union. Now I'm answering the third question, the single currency. This is a challenge of the African Union. It was a hot topic in the past, but now it's just simmering, I would say. This has to do with leadership. And it is a challenge because in practical terms, only ECOWAS has a single currency, except for Cape Verde and Ghana. Ghana does not have the CFA, but most countries use the CFA in West Africa. But Cape Verde and Ghana use separate currencies. In Central Africa, they also have a CFA, but that's a different from that of ECOWAS. And the SADC, Southern Africa region, each country has its own currency. South Africa uses the rand, Angola the kwanza. So each of the Southern African countries have their own currency. There is no conversions in terms of currency in the SADC region. In Yala, East Africa, each country also uses its own currency. In North Africa, each country with one currency. So there is no convergence And this is work that will take time, and it will not be easy at all. We need to have what we call legal security. We need to have agreements on exchange regimes and others. So there are many situations that need to be addressed before we come to this single currency. And I cannot see in the near future, in the short to medium term, I can't see this happening. We need to work and believe, but this is work that requires a lot from us. And especially if we are talking about countries with unconstitutional governments, this will take make any sovereign state to think twice about joining or not a single currency. So these are issues that need to be addressed very naturally and with time. On integration, I answered the question of the African integration. This has to do with sovereignty of member states. For each member state, they will want first to ensure their sovereignty and then think about the federation. First, you need to fix your own house, ensure your own political stability, your macroeconomic stability, your socioeconomic stability, so that you then think about the collective. So we are now in this phase of the challenge. Just to give you an idea, at ECOWAS, we have Guinea, Burkina Faso, Niger, and Mali, 4 countries with unconstitutional governments. And then we have the Sudan. We have the issues of the conflict of the Congo Basin. So we will have these persistent challenges in Africa, and this really does not encourage those who are given this step forward in the integration path. So this is a challenge for us all. We all need to work to consolidate our democracies. And now we see the problem of Mozambique. So these are challenges that we face on a daily basis. We have the terrorism challenge, the challenge of non-acceptance of electoral results. We have the challenge of the coup d'etats and constitutional governments. So we need to work in order to face these challenges, and then we can talk about African integration. On the issue of identity, this is a non-issue. We are Africans. This is a non-issue, really, identity. One thing is for someone to believe that he she does not identify with a certain group. That's a human right for him or her. But Cape Verde is an African country, and that's it. There's no doubt on that issue. So much so that we've signed an agreement. We're part of the African Union. We approved the establishment of the Pan-African Parliament, of ECOWAS, and all other African instruments. And there shouldn't be any doubt about our identity. We are an African people, and we are proud of that. And we have our challenges like everyone else has. On the funding challenges, in my address, I did not mention, but in terms of the funding of the African Union, we have 15 member states called the F15. These are the countries who contribute the most for the functioning of the African Union. And they are divided by region. In our region, the country with the largest contribution for the African Union is Nigeria. the biggest contributor of the African Union and ECOWAS is Nigeria. Then we have Ghana and Cote d'Ivoire. So in West Africa, the biggest contributors are Nigeria, Ghana, and Cote d'Ivoire. So this both for the African Union and ECOWAS. In Southern Africa, we have South Africa, Namibia. I don't remember the third country. In North Africa, we have Morocco, Algeria, and Egypt. In East Africa, we have Ethiopia, Uganda, and Kenya. Central Africa, we have Cameroon. Someone had asked about sanctions to members of countries with unconstitutional governments here. The countries with unconstitutional governments, the members of, the ambassadors, representing these countries are immediately under sanctions. The countries are suspended from the African Union activities, and the members are also suspended from taking part in activities of the Pan-African Parliament. And there's also another sanction at the African Union, which is the suspension of the participation for non-payment of contributions. So what happens at contrary to what happens in ECOWAS, at the African Union, a country that does not pay their contributions is suspended. This is a case that we have in São Tomé. There's a constitutional government, but they are suspended because they're not paying their contributions. The members of parliament cannot participate in Pan-African Parliament activities, and the head of state does not attend the African Union Summit. But at ECOWAS, countries with areas in their contributions can attend the activities, but at the Pan-African Parliament and African Union, they automatically suspended. I'd like to say that the difference between the Parliament, ECOWAS Parliament, and Pan-African Parliament is that the Pan-African Parliament is the continental parliament, is a higher body. The regional community parliament, those are regional parliaments, and they do work with the Pan-African Parliament. Unfortunately, in terms of funding, ECOWAS member states have made a funding agreement to pay via their community levies, but the Pan-African Parliament receives funding from the African Union. That's why we have a smaller funding in the African Union, because that's a different funding model. But the Continental Parliament is the Pan-African Parliament. The parliament representing 54 countries is the Pan-African Parliament. So this is the difference between the Pan-African Parliament and the ECOWAS Parliament, which is a regional parliament. The SADC Parliament is regional. They work on the issues of the region. The Pan-African Parliament deals with continental issues and the diaspora. So this is the difference between these two. The difference with the European Parliament. The Pan-African Parliament is going through the same steps as the European Parliament. Only after 25 years of existence, the European Parliament became a legislative parliament. We've existed for 20 years, and we hope that within a few years we become a legislative parliament, and a parliament with elections such as the European Parliament. This is a process because it involves the sovereignty of member states. It involves resources because, as you know, the European Union has got more resources than the African Union. So we have this funding challenge, but also the will of member states to grant the Pan-African Parliament its autonomy to be a continental legislative parliament. We had a comment from Even. Lastly, I confess that I did not know your organization and your movement. So this exchange here is very useful because we are also learning. We brought you knowledge, information, but we're also learning from you. And this is what enriches our engagement this afternoon and in this celebration of the 20th anniversary of the Pan-African Parliament. So this opportunity to listen to new realities, and I take the opportunity to congratulate your organization. May you keep the work, because each of us at their own level will allow the African Union to grow and to become a continental organization truly representing all member states. At the African Union, we have ECOSOC, which is a civil society organization, and we can facilitate this engagement between yourselves and ECOSOC, which is an African Union body with a mandate to work with other civil society organizations. So you could engage with ECOSOC to benefit from AU activities and also share your experience, which is a continental experience and involves the diaspora. Because what we are doing is work for the well-being of the African people. It's the same objective. We want the prosperity of Africa and the prosperity of the African people. Everyone in their own sphere will allow the continent to grow in an inclusive and sustainable manner, and with more democracy, more peace, and more stability. This is what we wish to all member states, and we should all, within our institutions, the universities, the teaching staff, the management, and student organizations. I know that you must have a student association here. You can also take part in the activities of the Pan-African Parliament, and we accept your participation. Whenever we can invite civil society representatives, we do so. We now have 2 young ladies who went to Dakar, one from the media, one from representing the youth. And we also have a university lecturer who was in Dakar with us. From the 5th to the 8th of December, we were in Dakar during the celebration, but also engaging with the civil society and the media and our diaspora. There was the traditional diaspora from other countries. We took from Cape Verde an internal diaspora. We took someone from Cape Verde, but it's from Sierra Leone. So we shared this experience of someone coming from a country in our region to live in Cape Verde. He's a university lecturer. He is within society, which shows that Cape Verde has got good policies for our diaspora, and that Cape Verde is an African country. There is no doubt that we are an African country. So I'll end my intervention here, and I wish you all success. And may you be interested on the issues of the African continent and participate actively on online engagements. And there are also institutions and people that we invite, and we now extend this invitation and the opening of the Pan-African Parliament to invite students of the Santiago University to take part in activities that we carry out in various countries, so that you can share experience and also take the Cape Verde experience to other countries. So this integration is done by sharing experience. if we all keep our own experience to ourselves, we will not have integration, because integration is exactly this: sharing our vision, our culture, our economy, our food, everything we need to share so that we can attain this prosperity that we want. Jeffrey, is there any intervention online, or can we close?
Hello, good evening. That's Emmanuel from Ghana. Can you hear me?
You may go ahead.
All right, thank you. So I want to commend the Pan-African Parliament for their good work. Right, I'm a graduate student at UPSA, reading MBA Accounting and Finance. Right, so I got to know of the Pan-African Parliament through our GRASAC, that's our student union, and I would say it's a nice place to be. And so far, we've had several talks and some workshops, which has enlightened us on the need to come together as Africa and achieve our set goals. Right. So there's a little that I want to say that let's keep it up. And some of us too are here to come on board to help anytime they need be. Thank you.
This was a comment on the side of the Pan-African Parliament. We are always open to take your contributions and to work with all African citizens in our enormous diaspora to bring prosperity to all of those in need. And we want, above all, to feel the commitment and engagement of the society, of the people, because this is why we were elected. This is why the African Union was established, to work for the prosperity of the African people. Thank you very much. We're now going to invite all for a group photo because other students also have classes. We cannot stop them from going to classes. So let's have a group photo to mark this event so that we can have the image of Cape Verde to share on our website and with our other countries. I think this closes the event, I believe.